Sam wiped the sweat from his forehead and swung his axe again. The wood split clean. He stacked the piece with the others and looked up at the sky. It was late afternoon. The sun was low and orange and the air smelled like dry pine and dust. It had not rained in weeks. The forest was quiet in the way that made a man uneasy. No birds, no wind, just heat sitting heavy on everything. He had been working this stretch of trees for 3 days. It was good timber, straight and strong, and the village needed it before winter. Sam was not a man who complained. He picked up his axe, chose the next tree and got back to work. He did not notice the smoke at first. It came slowly, a thin gray line rising somewhere deeper in the trees. He thought maybe someone had made a camp. He thought maybe it was nothing. Then the wind shifted and the smell hit him, sharp and hot and wrong. He turned and saw the orange glow between the trunks, maybe 200 yards away and moving fast. Fire. Sam grabbed his axe and his pack and ran. The forest floor was dry as paper. The fire did not crawl. It leaped, jumping from branch to branch above him, sending sparks raining down through the canopy. The heat came at him like a wall. He kept his head low and moved fast, weaving between trees, following the trail he knew. Then he heard it. It was small. Almost nothing. A sound somewhere between a cry and a hiss, low and broken, coming from somewhere to his left. Sam slowed. Every part of him said to keep running. The fire was close. The smoke was already burning his eyes. He stopped. He turned toward the sound. 20 feet off the path, half hidden by a fallen burning tree, something small was pinned to the ground. Sam pushed through the smoke and got closer. He blinked, not sure he was seeing right. It was a dragon hatchling. Small, no bigger than a large dog, with dark green scales and wings that were still too small and soft to be of any use. One of its back legs was caught under a thick burning branch that had fallen across it. The hatchling was not screaming. It was just lying there, pressing its chin to the dirt, breathing in shallow little pulls. Its golden eyes found Sam and did not look away. Sam stood there for 1 second. Just one. Then he dropped his pack and went to it. The branch was thick and heavy and the bark was already on fire. He could feel the heat on his hands before he even touched it. He grabbed it anyway. The pain was sharp and immediate, but he planted his feet and pulled. The branch did not move. He reset his grip, lower this time, and pulled again with everything he had. Something shifted. He pulled harder, teeth pressed together, and the branch rolled to the side just enough. The hatchling pulled its leg free. Sam let go of the branch and crouched down. The hatchling did not try to bite him. It did not try to run. It just looked at him with those steady golden eyes, sides heaving, one leg held awkward and wrong. Sam looked at the fire. It was close now. Very close. The trees around them were fully lit and the smoke was so thick he could barely see 10 feet ahead. He looked back at the hatchling. He picked it up. It was heavier than he expected. The scales were hard under his hands and the small body was warm. Not from the fire, just warm the way a living thing is warm. The hatchling made a low sound in its throat but did not struggle. Sam held it against his chest, tucked it under one arm the way you might carry a heavy stone, and ran. The fire was everywhere now. The path he had come from was gone. He picked a direction where the smoke was thinner and moved toward it, jumping over burning brush, ducking under low branches that were already catching. Embers fell on his shoulders and the back of his neck. His eyes were streaming. His lungs were burning. Then something strange happened. He felt heat in his hands. Not from the fire around him, something different. Something that started in his palms and spread slowly to his fingers. He looked down without stopping and saw, through the smoke in the dark, a faint glow on his hands. Soft and orange like coal that had just caught. The fire around him seemed to lean in, drawn toward it, curling near his knuckles like it recognized something. He did not stop running. He did not have time to be afraid of it. He ran until the trees thinned. He ran until the heat behind him was less than the cool air in front. He ran until his boots hit open ground and the smoke gave way to clean sky, and he stumbled out of the treeline and dropped to one knee in the grass, chest heaving, hatchling still held tight against him. He knelt there and breathed. The hatchling lifted its head and looked at him. Its golden eyes were calm. Its small sides moved up and down, steady now. It made that low sound again, quiet, not quite a growl, not quite anything Sam had a word for. Sam looked down at his hands. The glow was fading. The fire was gone from his palms. His skin was red and raw where he had grabbed the branch, but not burned the way it should have been. Not burned nearly the way it should have been. He closed his hands slowly and looked back at the forest, which was fully on fire now behind him. He had no idea what had just happened. But the small creature in his arms was alive. For now that was enough. You said, Part 2. The fire that does not burn him. Owen lifts the burning tree and pulls the hatchling free. Sam did not stop moving. His lungs were full of smoke and his legs were heavy, but he kept going. The hatchling pressed against his chest, one hand supporting its body and the other wrapped around its side. The little dragon had stopped struggling. It lay still against him, its small claws hooked lightly into his shirt, its golden eyes half closed. The open ground around him was not safe yet. The fire had already jumped the tree line to the east and the dry grass was catching fast. Sam looked left and right, trying to find a direction that was not orange. The sky above was dark with smoke. The sun had disappeared behind it. Everything smelled like burning. He picked the only gap he could see and ran for it. The grass fire moved faster than he expected. What had been a thin line of flame was suddenly knee-high and spreading sideways, cutting off the path he had chosen. Sam stopped, turned, and felt the heat pressing him from three sides now. His eyes were streaming so badly he could barely see. The hatchling lifted its head and made a sound, low and steady, almost like it was talking to him. Sam looked down at it. It was looking straight ahead. Not panicking. Just watching. He followed its eyes and saw it. A narrow space between two burning hedges where the fire had not fully closed yet. A gap. Small but there. Sam moved toward it without thinking. He lowered his head and pushed through. The fire was on both sides of him. This was the part where it should have hurt. The flames were close enough to touch. Close enough that he could see individual tongues of fire reaching toward him, bending in the heat. He felt the warmth, yes, strong and pressing and real. But it did not bite. It did not catch his skin and climb. It pulled back just slightly, the way water pulls back from something it cannot wet. Sam noticed it but did not have time to think about it. He kept moving. Then it happened again. The feeling started in his palms. A deep warmth, different from the fire around him. Not painful, almost the opposite. It spread from the center of each hand out to his fingers, slow and steady like warm water filling a glove. Sam looked down as he ran and saw the glow again, soft at first, then stronger. Orange and amber and gold, flickering between his fingers, sitting in his palms like he was holding something that was not there. The fire around him responded. He did not imagine it. The flames nearest to him shifted. They leaned in, not to burn him but the way a dog leans toward a familiar hand. The fire on his left curved slightly inward. The fire on his right did the same. It was not attacking him. It was moving toward him the way iron moves toward a magnet. Drawn. Interested. Come. Sam ran through it. The hatchling turned its head and looked at Sam's hands. It made that low sound again, deeper this time, almost like a rumble in a small chest. Sam had the strange feeling that the sound meant something, that the little creature understood what was happening even if he did not. Its golden eyes moved from his hands to his face and held there, watching him. Still calm. Sam came out the other side of the gap and kept running. The fire was behind him now. Still spreading, still loud, cracking and roaring through the dry trees. But he was ahead of it. He pushed through a stretch of low brush, stumbled over a root, caught himself and kept going. His shirt was torn at the shoulder. His boots were hot on the bottom. He had lost his axe somewhere back in the trees and his pack was gone too. He did not care. He found the stream. It was narrow, barely a foot deep, cutting through the edge of the forest where the trees thinned out toward the valley. Sam stepped into it without slowing down and waded across, the cold water shocking against his legs. He climbed the low bank on the other side and finally stopped. He turned and looked back. The forest was fully burning now. The whole eastern stretch was lit up, the fire moving through the canopy in long rolling waves. Smoke rose in a column so wide it blocked half the sky. He could feel the heat from where he stood 50 yards from the tree line. Sam looked down at his hands. The glow was fading again just like before. Slowly, like a lamp being turned down. The warmth pulled back from his fingers and settled somewhere deep in his palms and then went quiet. His skin was red. A little raw. But whole. Not blistered, not blackened. He had walked through the middle of a forest fire and his hands looked like he had spent too long near a hearth. He turned them over slowly. He had no words for it. The hatchling shifted in his arms. It pulled its small head up and looked at his face for a long moment, then pressed its chin against his chest and let out a slow breath. Its sides rose and fell. Its injured leg hung low and wrong, but it was not crying out. It was breathing. It was steady. Sam sat down in the grass beside the stream. His whole body was shaking now that the running had stopped. His throat was raw and his eyes were still stinging and his heart was going too fast. He sat there and held the small dragon and tried to breathe slowly. He did not know what the fire in his hands was. He did not know what any of it meant. He only knew that the small creature against his chest was alive, and that he had carried it out, and that for some reason the fire had let him. That was all he had. For now it was enough. Sam was still sitting by the stream when the shadow came. It did not come slowly. One moment the sky was gray with smoke and the next moment something blocked it, something enormous, dropping fast from above like a stone dropped from a great height. The wind hit first. A hard downward push that flattened the grass around Sam and sent ash spinning in every direction. He looked up and had just enough time to see the shape before it landed. The ground shook. She was massive. Easily 4 times the size of a horse, maybe more. Dark green scales, deeper and older than the hatchlings, with patches of near black along her spine and the edges of her wings. Her wings snapped shut as she landed and she turned towards Sam in one smooth motion, fast for something so large, and her eyes found him immediately. They were gold. The same gold as the hatchlings. Sam did not move. He could not have moved if he wanted to. His legs had stopped working somewhere between the shadow appearing and the ground shaking. He sat in the grass with the hatchling against his chest and looked up at the dragon mother and felt very small and very still. She was going to kill him. He could see it in the way she moved. Low and deliberate, each step placed carefully, her head dropping to his level the way a predator drops before it strikes. Her jaw was tight. Her nostrils were flared wide, pulling in the smoke and the smell of him, reading everything about him in the air. A sound built in her throat, not quite a roar, not yet, something lower and more controlled and somehow worse than a roar would have been. Sam did not run. He did not raise his hands. He did not shout or plead or try to explain. There was no time for any of that and he knew it. He just sat there and held the hatchling carefully and did not look away from her eyes. She stopped. 3 feet away. Close enough that he could feel the heat coming off her scales, different from the fire in the forest, a living warmth. Close enough that one snap of her jaw would end things very quickly. She held there, and the sound in her throat dropped lower, and her eyes moved from his face down to the small body in his arms. The hatchling made a sound. It was small and tired, but it was clear. The little dragon lifted its head from Sam's chest and looked at its mother and made that low rumbling sound that Sam had heard twice before in the fire. The mother's jaw did not open. The sound in her throat shifted, changed register, became something else. Still low. Still dangerous. But different. Her eyes moved. She looked at the hatchling's injured leg hanging wrong against Sam's arm. She looked at the small body, the dark smudges of ash on the green scales, the shallow but steady breathing. Then she looked at the forest. Sam watched her do it. She raised her head and looked at the tree line, fully burning now, the fire roaring through it from east to west. She looked at the distance between the forest and where Sam sat. She looked at the stream he had crossed. Her eyes came back to him and they were different now, still fierce, still enormous and ancient and impossible to read, but the killing edge had pulled back just slightly, like a blade not quite returned to its sheath. Then she looked at his hands. Sam had forgotten about his hands. He looked down himself. The glow was almost gone but not quite. The last of it was still fading from his knuckles, soft amber dying down to nothing, the way a fire goes out in stages rather than all at once. His palms were still red and raw. The marks from the burning branch were still clear across his fingers. The dragon mother stared at his hands for a long time. Sam did not speak. He did not know what to say and he did not think words were the right thing here. He just held the hatchling steady and let her look. Something changed in her face. He could not have said exactly what. Dragons did not have faces that worked the way human faces worked. But something shifted behind her eyes. The hard locked fury that had been there when she landed loosened, just slightly, like a fist opening one finger at a time. She leaned her head closer to Sam, not threatening now, just looking, and her nostrils moved slowly as she breathed him in again. She held there for a long moment. Then she pulled back. She stood to her full height and looked down at Sam from above, and he looked up at her, and neither of them moved. The fire crackled in the forest behind him. Smoke drifted between them. The hatchling lay still and breathing in his arms. Sam slowly, carefully held the hatchling out toward her. His arms shook a little from exhaustion but he held them steady. An offering. A return. No conditions attached to it. The mother lowered her head. She pressed her nose gently against the hatchling's side and breathed out, a long, slow breath that moved the little dragon's scales. The hatchling pressed back against her and made that sound again, the low rumble, quiet and tired and safe. The mother straightened. She looked at Sam one more time. He did not know what the look meant. He was not sure any human would know what that look meant. It was too old and too deep and carried too many things inside it. But it was not anger anymore. She stepped back. Then she was gone, up into the smoke, wings spreading wide, carrying her hatchling up and away into the gray sky until Sam could not see either of them anymore. He sat alone in the grass by the stream. His hands were empty and his arms were tired and the forest was still burning. He sat there for a very long time. Sam walked back to the village alone. It took him the better part of 2 hours. His boots were still damp from the stream and his throat was raw from the smoke and he had nothing with him. No axe, no pack, no food. Just the clothes on his back and the red marks across his hands and the memory of a dragon looking at him like she was reading something written in a language he did not know he spoke. The village was small. 12 houses, a mill, a well in the center, and a road that connected it to the larger town 3 miles east. People were outside when he came in. They had seen the smoke from the forest and some of the men had been talking about going to look. When Sam walked through the gate they stopped talking and stared at him, at the ash on his face and the torn shirt and the empty hands. His neighbor Will was the first to reach him. Will was a broad man with a loud voice and he used it now, asking Sam what had happened, where his tools were, whether he was hurt. Sam answered slowly. He said there had been a fire. He said he had gotten out. He did not say anything about the hatchling or the mother or the glow in his hands. He was not sure he had the words for it yet. He was not sure he believed it himself. Will brought him water and someone else brought bread and Sam sat on the step outside his house and ate and drank and said very little. The other men drifted back to their own business after a while. The fire was far enough away. The village was safe. That was all most of them needed to know. But one person did not drift away. Roy had been standing at the edge of the small crowd the whole time. Sam had not noticed him at first. Roy was the kind of man who was easy not to notice. Old and thin, not especially tall, with white hair cut close and a face that had so many lines in it that his expressions were hard to read. He had lived in the village longer than anyone else. He had no trade that Sam knew of. He kept to himself, grew vegetables behind his house, and occasionally said things that people did not understand until 3 days later. Sam noticed him now because Roy was not looking at his face. Roy was looking at his hands. Sam looked down. In the fading afternoon light he could see what Roy was seeing, the redness, yes, and the marks from the branch. But also something else. A faint trace of color still sitting in the lines of his palms. So faint Sam had told himself he was imagining it. A warmth that had not fully gone. Like the last trace of heat in a stone that had been near a fire. Roy walked over and crouched down in front of him. He took Sam's hands in both of his own and turned them over slowly. He did not ask permission. He just looked, with the careful focused attention of a man reading something important. His thumbs moved lightly across Sam's palms. His eyes were sharp and very still. Then he let go and sat down on the step beside Sam. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said very simply that he had hoped he would never see this again. Sam asked him what he meant. Roy looked at the smoke still rising in the distance over the tree line. He was quiet for another moment, the way old men are quiet when they are deciding how much of a thing to say. Then he began to talk. He said it started a long time ago. Before the village. Before most things that people in the village knew about. He said there had been a time when dragons and humans were not strangers to each other. Not friends exactly, that was not the right word, but not enemies either. He said in that time there were certain humans who carried something in their blood. Not magic exactly. Not power the way a sword is power. Something older than that. A connection. A recognition. He called them fire-touched. Sam listened without speaking. Roy said the fire-touched were not common. One in a generation, sometimes fewer. They did not choose it and they did not earn it. They were simply born with it, the way some people are born with good eyes or strong hands. The fire knew them. Did not burn them the way it burned others. And dragons, old dragons, the kind that carried memory in their bones, knew them on sight. He said the last fire-touched man he had known was Sam's grandfather. Sam went very still. Roy said he had not been certain about Sam. He had watched him growing up, looked for signs, never been sure. He said the signs were not always obvious until the fire actually came. He said Sam's grandfather had not known either, not until he was older than Sam was now, not until a burning barn and a trapped horse and flames that gathered around his hands like they were coming home. Sam looked down at his palms. He asked Roy what it meant. What he was supposed to do with it. Roy was quiet for a long moment. He said he did not know exactly. He said the old stories were incomplete. He said the fire-touched did not have a purpose handed to them. They had a nature, and nature had a way of finding its own purpose when the time was right. He said the fact that Sam had already found a dragon did not surprise him. Sam looked at him. Roy looked back, calm and steady and old. Sam asked if the dragon would come back. Roy picked up his walking stick and stood slowly, his knees taking their time about it. He looked out toward the smoke on the horizon and then looked back at Sam with those sharp, quiet eyes. He said he thought she already knew where to find him. Then he walked home. Sam sat on his step alone and looked at his hands in the last light of the day and did not sleep well that night at all. 3 days passed. Sam went about his work the way he always did. He borrowed an axe from Will and went back to the valley, not near the burned forest but further west where the trees were still standing. He cut timber. He stacked it. He ate his meals and spoke to his neighbors and did the ordinary things that filled ordinary days. But he looked at the sky a lot. He was not sure what he was waiting for. He told himself he was not waiting for anything. He told himself the dragon mother had taken her hatchling and that was the end of it. A strange thing that had happened, a thing he would probably never fully understand, and life would go on the same as before. He told himself this several times over the 3 days. He did not believe it. His hands still felt different. Not painful, not glowing, just different, the way a place feels different after something important has happened in it. He would be in the middle of splitting wood and he would stop and open his palms and look at them and feel that deep quiet warmth sitting somewhere beneath the skin, patient and still like something waiting for a reason to wake up. On the morning of the 4th day he stepped outside before sunrise. The air was cool and the sky was dark blue at the edges and the village was completely silent. Sam stood in front of his door with a cup of water and watched the horizon and told himself again that he was not waiting. Then the shadow crossed the stars. It was high up, moving fast, angling down toward the village in a long slow curve. Sam set his cup down on the step and stood very still. His heart was going faster than he wanted it to. The shadow dropped lower and the sound came. A deep rhythmic beat of large wings, steady and unhurried. And then she came out of the dark sky and landed in the open ground in front of his house so quietly that the grass barely moved. Mara. She was just as large as he remembered. In the early morning dark her scales were almost black, the deep green invisible until she shifted and caught the first pale light coming over the hills. She folded her wings and lowered her head and looked at him with those gold eyes that held too much in them for Sam to read. He did not speak. She turned her head slowly to the side, and Sam saw what she had brought. The hatchling was there, tucked close against her front leg, sitting up on its own. Its injured leg was bandaged, not with cloth, with something else, some dark material that Sam did not recognize, wrapped carefully from the knee down. It was not standing fully on it yet, but it was bearing some weight. Its small scales caught the light the same way its mother's did, and its gold eyes found Sam immediately. Sam crouched down. He did not think about it. He just went down to one knee in the grass so he was closer to the hatchling's level, and he looked at it and it looked at him. It looked better than it had in the forest. Its eyes were brighter. Its sides moved with full easy breaths. 3 days ago it had been limp and silent in his arms in the middle of a burning forest. Now it was sitting up and watching him with an expression that Sam could only describe as curious. The hatchling took one careful step toward him. Then another. It moved slowly, favoring the good leg, but it moved with intention. It crossed the few feet of grass between them and stopped directly in front of Sam. This close, Sam could see the small details of it. The tiny overlapping scales, the soft ridge along its spine that would one day be something more, the claws that were small now but already sharp. It lifted one front claw. Just held it out, low and open the way a child holds out a hand. Sam looked at it for a moment. He looked up at Mara. She had not moved. She was watching him with those still gold eyes, and she was not tense, not coiled, not ready to strike. She was simply watching. Waiting. Sam reached out his hand. The moment his fingers neared the hatchling's claw, the warmth came back. It rose from somewhere deep in his palms and spread outward through his fingers. Not fast, not explosive, just steady and sure, like a lamp being slowly turned up. The glow followed it, soft amber light filling the lines of his palm, gathering at his fingertips, calm and even. The hatchling made that sound. The low rumble from the forest. But different now, fuller, rounder, something that vibrated in Sam's chest even from this small creature. It pressed its claw into his palm and curled its small claws lightly around 2 of his fingers and held on. The fire in Sam's hands did not hurt it. It did not flinch or pull back. It pressed closer, if anything, and the rumble in its chest grew a little stronger. Sam could feel it through his fingers. A steady living warmth that answered the warmth in his own hands like 2 notes that belonged in the same song. Sam looked up at Mara. She lowered her great head slowly until her eyes were level with his. She looked at him for a long moment, at his face, at his hands, at the hatchling holding onto his fingers. Then she breathed out, long and slow, and the sound that came with it was low and deep and settled, like a word said in a language Sam did not speak but somehow understood anyway. Sounded like yes. Sounded like finally. Sam looked back down at the hatchling. It looked up at him. The fire in his palms glowed warm and steady between them, not wild, not frightening, just alive. He did not fully understand what any of it meant. He did not know what came next or what the world would make of a woodsman from a small village and a dragon family from an ancient forest. He did not have answers to any of the questions that Roy's story had opened up in him. But the hatchling was holding his hand. And the fire was home.